Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Glucose Glow Up Show. I am really excited that you're here. I'm excited to be diving back into the podcast. We had a rough summer here personally, so we're trying to just get through that a little bit. And I just put new batteries in my glucometer for the first time in like probably 8 or 10 weeks. I don't know, like it was dead for a while. So I have not been as diligent about my tracking, but we are back into things here. And something that I want to talk about that's kind of been everywhere. I think there's always something that like becomes a buzzword or something that just kind of like blows up, especially in the supplement world, and that's electrolytes. I feel like you hear about it everywhere. You need to hydrate, you need to get your electrolytes in, and maybe that's, you hear a lot about Gatorade or Body Armor or other types of drinks like Powerade, Prime drinks, like it's just something that's everywhere at sporting events or at the gym or just, everyday regular hydration if you're going for a walk. So I just feel like electrolytes are something that have been really pushed lately. So I just think there's so many brands on the market right now. I mean, there's tons of different brands and bright packaging and big promises for this is like the cleanest and the best one yet. One popular one that I've talked about on other episodes and that I used to consume was Element. And those packets are something that I bought for a number of years. And so I think especially postpartum and breastfeeding, that was something I, as well as many others, rely on for hydration and recovery. So I think so that's the main one, but there's so many others popping up there now. Like I said, that they're trying to promote like they have the best ingredients or better sourced, whatever that is, and like gosh, they're so expensive. So I started asking a few more questions. It's like, okay, what's like really in these packets? What makes yours clean or better than the other one? And like, are they good for me overall? Is it something that's good for my blood sugar or my overall health? Are there some reasons to maybe stay away from them and maybe look at something else? And so I started just kind of taking a closer look and realized that maybe Element wasn't the right fit for me. And when I look at the other brands out there, I'm not really talking about other specific brands because I never actually purchased them. I look at the ingredients and I just kind of wonder, are these even really much better? So, in this episode, I'm just walking through why electrolytes matter, what made me ditch store-bought ones, and there's a couple homemade versions I'm using now, including the Element style salt mix that is new for me. I have not talked about this before. And then how I'm making them at home, these Element style drinks. So, if you're trying to stay hydrated after a tough workout, or really just general hydration throughout your day, or maybe you just are looking for more transparency in what you're consuming, I definitely think this one is for you. So, let's get into it. Hey there, I'm Katie, and welcome to the Glucose Glow Up Show, where I'm making blood sugar balance for non-diabetics not just important, but actually fun and approachable. I'm a girl mama, problem solver, wellness advocate, and someone who turned a deep dive into metabolic health into real life results, like healing my insulin resistance and unlocking my fertility journey. This podcast is your backstage pass to everything I've learned and I'm still learning about glucose, longevity, how to beat your cravings, and stop feeling hangry. Why does this all matter? Because when your blood sugar's in check, everything just feels better, from your mood to your energy and overall health. Here we'll talk about glucose tracking, eating for balance, optimizing your health, fertility, navigating the healthcare system, a holistic approach to wellness, and biohacking your way to feeling amazing for years to come. I'm in the trenches right alongside you, working daily to manage my own glucose and have more energy for the things I love. So, whether you're ready to kickstart your health, deepen your understanding of how food impacts your body, or just want a relatable space to learn and grow, you're in the right place. Let's get glowing. So, first, I want to back up and even talk about what electrolytes are. And I just feel like it's been sort of a buzzword lately, and the industry kind of like latches on to what people are paying attention to, and electrolytes seem to be that thing. Electrolytes are minerals, so like sodium, potassium, magnesium, calcium, that help your body, and they do like a lot of important things. So they are really essential for everyone, not just in the context of athletes or sports drinks like Gatorade and Powerade and Prime and all these different electrolyte sports drinks that are out there. So they really help your brain, and they send signals to your muscles, your heart, your cells to kind of keep everything balanced. And hydration is really important for glucose regulation, so it does kind of play a factor in that as well. So electrolytes are involved in a lot of different things. And keeping them in balance is really important. So if they're off, like too low, too high, like it definitely can throw things off, and that could lead to headaches, heart issues, insulin resistance, and some metabolic syndrome symptoms, cramping, fatigue, brain fog, things like that. So the good news is it's pretty easy to maintain with food and hydration and rest. And, if you're super active, you sweat a lot, maybe you did a hard workout, you're breastfeeding, you could need more support. And that's where some of these electrolyte brands are coming in. And so that's kind of where this all started. There's a lot of different electrolyte drinks and mixes and packets and all kinds of brands, and they're not all created equal. So that's kind of what we're going to talk about today. But I wanted to just kind of go through some of the basics of what electrolytes are. There are some concerns about salt and your blood pressure. The current recommendation is you should limit your sodium intake to less than 2,300 milligrams per day. That's the current recommendation, which, based on my research, is not fully supported by any sort of robust evidence that that is the number that people should be shooting for. And a lot of people are dealing with high blood pressure these days. Some people don't even realize they are because it's sort of a silent thing. There's not usually a lot of symptoms until it gets really elevated. So a lot of people, I believe, are on high blood pressure medications, or maybe like it's undiagnosed, similar to blood sugar dysregulation, high glucose, high insulin, things like that. But there was a 2021 review that showed that a sodium intake of 3,000 to 5,000 milligrams of sodium per day could actually be more optimal. And there really was no risk to cardiovascular disease with that increase. In some cases, it actually showed the increase in your salt intake prevented or lowered your risk for heart disease. So what I read and what I'm seeing is a higher salt intake in most individuals is okay. Now, is that okay for you? I don't know. This is not medical advice, but only 25% of the population are salt sensitive. So there is a part of the population that could see an increase in their blood pressure from increasing their salt intake. So it is important to kind of know your numbers. And I don't talk about this a whole lot, but blood pressure, of course, is a metabolic health marker. And I do track my blood pressure for a number of different reasons. I started tracking it during my pregnancy with my daughter, and I have a blood pressure monitor at home, and I just check in on that once in a while because it is really important to know what your normal is. It's sort of similar to your glucose. If you don't know like what your normal is before you start having a problem, it's hard for you to even identify when that problem may be started or what's causing it. So just another maybe thing to think about, and maybe just keep an eye on your blood pressure once in a while, or just remember, write down like what it was at the doctor when you went for your annual physical or whatever that was. It's an important number to know. So what all I'm trying to say here is there is evidence support that like higher salt intake and electrolytes and all of this is important, and it could potentially benefit your heart and your decrease your risk of cardiovascular disease. and help your blood pressure, things like that. So, majority of us should be okay. But again, please talk to your doctor. And if you're on like high blood pressure medicine and things like that, like if you have a pre-existing condition, certainly something to kind of dig into a little bit more for you personally. All right, done with some of the education component, I guess, with your blood pressure and salt. But with the element, I kind of would dig a little bit more into that because I did speak on a podcast a few episodes ago about how I ditched element as part of my routine, but I did use it for a number of years. Like I said, it was very convenient. I liked the taste of it. It was working for me. I did I did drink it during my pregnancy. I feel like I started it a kind of a little bit before I got pregnant and then throughout my pregnancy and the majority of my breastfeeding journey. It did definitely help me. I felt like good. I felt like I needed a little bit more and maybe I just wasn't getting enough salt in other areas of my diet. I mean, I don't eat a lot of processed food, so you're not going to get that sort of salt intake, but maybe I don't salt over salt my foods. I mean, that is another thing to consider. But I did start to kind of think, even when I still kind of liked Element, I started to kind of think about the cost and like how expensive it was and was it really worth it? I started to look at the label a little closer. These are things that I've talked about if you want to, I believe it's episode number 16 of the Glucose Glow Up show, but I would see a lot of influencers and doctors, like functional medicine doctors, and even the naturopath that I see, like promoting Element. And I always saw natural flavors on there. And like, I think in the back of my mind, I was like, okay, well, all these people that I really trust and I have followed for years, and even my own doctor is using Element. And I think I just brushed it off that, okay, like natural flavors can't be that bad, right? And then there was some controversy with Element. There's an article that I will link that they did a sort of fib quite a bit on how much maltodextrin was hiding in the natural flavors of their product. And maltodextrin is a processed carb that can spike your blood sugar. It can be hidden in natural flavors, and food companies do not need to disclose what is in natural flavors. They are basically allowed to put a bunch of stuff in there that we don't know what it is. And so the Element said they only had like a few milligrams in there and it was so minimal. And then like somebody did some testing. Again, I'll link to the article. But some of the products were tested and they had like upwards of 500 milligrams of maltodextrin. And that's especially important to note, like if you're trying to stay in ketosis, like that could bump you out of that. And if you're just like drinking your salt water in the morning, like you wouldn't think you're knocking yourself out of ketosis. So there were like some big issues there. And I was just like, yeah, I kind of really would prefer a company to be more transparent. And like I said, I started looking at other brands and I just like, they all like, and once you go down that rabbit hole, then you start seeing all these ads. Like you will now see every single electrolyte company, brand, everyone that's out there, you will get an ad served to you and everyone will be on the video saying, this is the cleanest brand. It's better than this one. It's better than that one. And I started looking at them, and I mean, some of them look pretty solid, but almost all of them add some sort of flavor or natural flavor or something in there. And I'm just like, kind of paused and thought about it a lot. I'm like, I wonder if I can just figure out how to make this myself. Like, I don't know. It can't be that hard, right? Like, figure out how to flavor it and get the right ingredients. And I don't know if you know this, but Element actually publishes their recipe, like a DIY sort of thing on their own site. So I was like, okay, like let's kick off this homemade electrolyte experiment. And I just want to note, like I do go between this and another one that I've talked about previously. So I still do the coconut water, filtered water. Um, I use pink Himalayan salt. Like you can choose whatever salt you want. That's what I choose. I do some fresh lime and fresh lemon juice. I do have the recipe on my blog. I will link to that. This is really great. I love coconut water. It is a really great electrolyte drink, even on its own, if you just want a little. So, something to keep in mind that I'm also, still using that in addition to this new recipe. I do, I am like personally a little cautious about just coconut water and I try and do it around like a workout. If I'm going for a walk or whatever it is, I might not just like sip on it all day like I would water. Because it is primarily carbs, something to keep in mind if you're like, okay, I think some people think, oh, coconut water is healthy, so now I can like have as much as I want. And I feel like maybe not. Like, I mean, everyone's different. I don't have a huge rise in glucose, but there is some with coconut water, so it's just something to be aware of that maybe just chugging coconut water all day isn't the right fit either if you're trying to like be mindful of glucose. So, anyways, basically what element is, like if you just get like a raw packet of element, which again is like 45 plus dollars for one box, which is like 30 servings in the box. It's sodium chloride or like salt, whatever kind of salt. Like I said, like I have pink Himalayan salt and then potassium chloride and magnesium malate. Those are the three things that make up the raw packet of element and your basic electrolyte drink with no extra additives or flavors or whatever. This is just straight raw. And I will mention that like when we started doing this, my husband like just started taking the raw and putting it in his water and he was like completely happy with that. So he still does that. I don't it basically tastes like almost nothing. But he enjoys that. So I mean like if you want to stop there and just go super basic, you can go there. But I really, really love the raspberry element. So I was like, I need to start to experiment with how do I kind of get this homemade version of element working for me. So I did do some research on the potassium chloride and the magnesium malate. I went with, and I will link these in the show notes. I went with the Seeking Health magnesium malate powder. And I don't remember, it was maybe like 20 some dollars for like 100 servings in there. So that was pretty good. And then I did the Now Foods potassium chloride powder. Again, that was pretty inexpensive. It says an eighth of a teaspoon is a serving, 324 servings. I mean, like it's very inexpensive, personally, I think, to try and get those. And then I did start grinding my own pink Himalayan salt for a while, and that is a lot of salt to grind. So I did cheat and just buy pre-ground salt because it saves me so much time. My like wrist was like hurting from trying to grind all that salt. So I sourced the potassium chloride and magnesium malate from iHerb. That's a pretty trusted supplement store that I buy things from. Otherwise, I also buy things from Full Script, but iHerb has a really good protocol for storing and like sourcing like what they sell on there. So I do like that. So I can link to those. Again, like you can pick whatever kind of salt you like. I just seem to prefer the pink Himalayan one. So making like the batches, so it's helpful to have a scale for this. So I have a kitchen scale that I use. It's not like super exact. It doesn't do like 11.7 grams, which is what you need of the magnesium. I'm going to go through this in a second here. So I do my best to just kind of round up and get like super close as I can. I mean, if you have a more exact scale, then this will make sense to you as well. But so what I do is I just make a big batch and I just keep it in a mason jar and then we scoop it out as we need it. I don't like put them in individual packets. So sure, it could be a little bit less convenient than a packet of Element. But here's like what Element says is for 30 servings. 75 grams of sodium chloride or salt, 11.5 grams of potassium chloride, and 11.7 grams of magnesium malate. Now, when I was grinding my own salt, I was like, that's a lot. I don't think I'm going to grind 75 grams. So I've typically been making a half batch, so about 15 servings. So I just cut the recipe in half and I do 37 and a half-ish, maybe closer to 38 grams of sodium chloride, 5.75 grams of potassium chloride, 5.85 grams of the magnesium malate. Again, I store that in a glass jar. It needs to be in an airtight container and then just scoop it as needed. It's really super easy and it's even easier now that I have the pre-ground salt. It just felt like a chore and you know what? I'm just gonna pay the $6 or whatever it is for this, I don't know, 26 and a half ounce container of salt. So it was worth it. I feel like it was like the same amount for the grinder one. Okay, so now that we kind of had the base and kind of what that looks like, again, I have a blog detailing these things too, and I will add links and things like that to the show notes. But I take the salt mix and like I said, my husband just takes like an eighth of a teaspoon and puts it in 16 ounces of water. Maybe he does that like once or twice a day and he's happy. I think he does occasionally add like a little bit of fresh lime juice in there. I prefer it to always have lime juice, but he, like I said, can just go completely raw. So if you have been getting the raw element, you might just be happy with that recipe we just went through, and you can just put in however much you want. So like the full serving of an element packet is 3 grams measured out of that recipe all mixed together that we talked about. So if you're going for a full packet, that'd be 3 grams. I have tried that in about like 16 to 20 ounces of water. I've sort of gone down to about half of that. And then I always add lime juice. And then, except when I made one with lemon, but I almost always add lime juice. It's a really great flavor in there. And sometimes I just stop there. But there are some of my favorites that, I mean, we've had some of these things in the house, so I've just been experimenting a little bit. But so go off of what you would do, like if you were drinking Element, like if you were doing 32 ounces of water and you want it like less salty, do that. I always liked it a little more salty, like I liked the taste of it. So I do like the 16 to 20 ounces of water with the 3 grams of salt mix, sometimes less. It just really depends on how I'm feeling that day or like maybe what kind of a workout I was doing. If I wasn't doing super intense workout, maybe I just cut it down to half and I just do like a scoop, like an eighth teaspoon scoop. That's kind of what we have attached to our mason jar lid. So that's kind of what we're working with here. And then for the orange salt, I just did like 3/4 to like one mandarin orange broken into pieces. And like you literally just dump that in the cup. Watermelon salt, I enjoyed this one. So again, it's always going to be that 3 grams of salt mix or like less. Like take it down to like whatever amount is comfortable for you. Juice of half a lime. I mean, like I played with this and this is a good amount. And then like I did maybe like 1 to 2 small chunks of fresh watermelon. Literally just drop that in the cup. And the longer it sits in there, the more you're gonna get the flavor. It's really good. If you citrus salt is another one of my favorite. That would be the lime juice and that's it. Like the salt mix and I do, half a lime, half a fresh lime cut in half, like dump it in the cup. Mix it all up. That would be citrus salt. I went also with strawberry lemonade. So instead of the lime, I went with the juice of half a lemon. I put like 2 to 3 fresh strawberries sliced in there. That one, definitely the longer the strawberries sit in there, the more flavor you get. So you kind of just mix that up real good and let it sit for a while, but it is really good. Same with the raspberry salt. This one is one of my favorites, and I also really enjoy this one. The salt mix, juice of half a lime, and then like half a cup of fresh raspberries. I sort of take like a butter knife and I just like lightly press them against the side of the glass to kind of release a little bit of the juice, but you definitely do not want to blend them. I'm going to go into a few notes here on like things not to do with these because I did a few things that were just not working. Do not ever blend any of this fruit. Do not blend it together. I definitely had this moment where I thought like blending the raspberries was going to be a great idea. I mean, no, do not do that. Basically, what I was doing was eating raspberry seeds. They were just like all like you just pulverized the raspberries in the blender and it just became like this pile of seeds. It was so gross. I had to get rid of that one. So just put the fruit in the cup hole. Always use fresh fruit. Frozen just is not going to release the juices the same or the flavors of the fruit, whatever you're trying to go for there. It's gonna just like almost add like ice, kind of. Like it's just like completely frozen. I don't know that they really have the same flavor. So just go with fresh fruit. So a lot of these things, like if we had watermelon that week, then I did watermelon. I didn't go out of my way to like buy a whole watermelon. It was like, oh, there's a piece of watermelon already cut. I'm just gonna like use that this week. The lime juice adds flavor, so I put that in every single one, except for the one that where I kind of experimented with strawberry lemonade. And adding the lime also supports the electrolyte absorption. So Element actually also in their recipes said to include that in every one. It was sort of like a base. It's almost like that citrus flavor is kind of a base. Really, really love the citrus. And then, like I said, add as much water as you need or pull back on like the grams of salt mix you use. This is sort of an individual thing. So I've sort of figured out, for a while I liked that 16 to 20 ounces with the full 3 grams. But over time, I've sort of noticed that I kind of like half of that or maybe a little less. So I also don't just measure this out as much anymore. I've been doing this for a few months now. You kind of just learn what it is. I mean, for a while I was sitting there and I was measuring every single gram and making sure it was really exact, but I think you just like figure it out over time. Like, okay, I just want an eighth of a teaspoon and this much water. I'm gonna throw in like 3 strawberries and mix it up with my lime juice and be good to go. And like that's perfectly fine, and that's kind of what I've been doing. So this has kind of been my experiment over the last few months, and it's been really going really well. My husband also really enjoys it, and so I'm really happy that we're not spending $45 on 30 servings of Element anymore. So just to wrap things up, I know there's just so many wellness products out there. They look healthy, the branding looks great. There's a lot of influencers and even doctors promoting these as the next best thing. And I'm definitely becoming more leery of the next best thing. And, if you're trying to manage your glucose or maybe you're on a fertility journey or postpartum or breastfeeding or doing CrossFit workouts or running, walking, whatever your choice of workout is, I know like electrolytes are good. And I'm not saying store-bought is bad. It is convenient. Absolutely. I know that. And I haven't quite figured out exactly how I want to travel with this. I mean, I've just been bringing Honestly, I just bring our mason jar and we just scoop it into our water bottles or whatever we have. So it's not like measured out in these nice little fancy branded packets. But I know exactly what is in my drink and it's transparent. I know it's like 3 ingredients and then, the flavoring. So I feel good about it and it's been working really well for us. And I really hope you give it a try. I'm gonna link, like I said, the full like the recipes in the show notes, and I've got this blog. And start with one version. I'd be curious what you think. Play with the flavors and just kind of see how you feel if this is something that interests you. And if you make your own, let me know. Tag me. I want to see it and kind of hear what you think. So thanks for listening, everyone, and I will see you next time.